Hello, Choice Residential. I am here today to go over the January 2025 revision of the exclusive right to sell listing agreement. There were significant changes, so I'm going to go through this. Now, you need to make sure you watch the NCAR video done by John Waite, which I have distributed to get a detailed breakdown of the changes in these forms. I'm going to touch on some of the highlights here and the things that are required and important for you to know as a Choice Residential agent, but please watch the NCAR video as well. First thing to note is that you will see at the bottom right the revised 125. That's the January 2025 revision. Make sure you're using this version. There is a 30-day grace period from February 1st, but you're going to want to go ahead and use this immediately once the forms are available in .loop for you. The document is much shorter now. It's about half as long as it was before, so that's great news. They have combined the property paragraph to have that consolidated and all on one page, whereas before it was spread across 2 pages. The fixtures have been brought forward as well and are all on one page as well. A lot of this information is the same, just been consolidated. They are moving a lot of the information to the guidelines, which is Form 101G. So definitely take a look at that to make sure you still understand each section. One quick note on listing price. While this section is the same, make sure you are understanding what types of loans are in fact going to be eligible for the properties you're listing. Don't just check all of them and don't just check none of them. If the property is in a USDA eligible area, then make sure you're checking that box. If the home was just purchased a week ago and it's being flipped in some form or fashion, then it's not going to be eligible for FHA financing right now until the 120 days is up. So make sure you're aware of what boxes you're checking and that you are in fact checking all of the correct options there. Quick note on the marketing and marketing date. You can see this section, of course, looks different. Again, it's been consolidated. But the marketing date here applies whether you are doing public marketing in the MLS or even if you're doing an office exclusive. If you're doing an office exclusive, you are still marketing the property to agents inside of the office. No marketing of any form or fashion can happen before the date that you put in here. That means no coming soon sign, no social media posts, no emails to the office, etc. Make sure you're not marketing or promoting the property in any way before the date you are entering it here. Now, if you are doing public marketing, meaning the seller is initialing here for public marketing, then you have 1 business day from the marketing date to get it into the MLS. So just be aware of that. And then this subparagraph C, the marketing risks, this is not a paragraph you should gloss over with your clients. In fact, now that the listing agreement is only 7 pages, make sure you're touching on these things. If it was left in the form, it's because North Carolina thinks it's important for you to be discussing. So make sure you're talking about the fact that you're going to do the best you can to protect the property, but there are things that are outside of your control. And it's worth talking about surveillance devices as well. And remind the sellers it is actually a crime for them to listen into someone else's conversation. All right, now here's one of the big changes, which is how we are describing commission that the seller is paying. Paragraph 7. This is now going to look like an elementary school addition equation. We have the fee, firm's fee is what we are charging as listing agents. So I'm going to put a number in here just so that we can use real numbers for discussion. But as we know, commissions are not set, they are negotiable. But let's say, for example, that you are charging a 3% listing side commission. So this is what you are being paid as the listing agent. That's what we as the firm are being paid as the listing firm. So that could be a flat fee, it could be a percentage, it could be whatever it's going to be here. So if you had a retainer that's being built into that because of your upfront marketing costs, that's fine. Notice that it will be credited towards the firm's total commission. There is no option here. So if you charge a $2,500 retainer fee, it's non-refundable, but it does apply towards the total commission that you're charging. So this fee entered into this first box would not get added into the total fee down here below. So for simplicity's sake, let's just say that you are charging 3% to your seller. You're going to check this box and put 3% in here. The next section, subparagraph C, what are we offering, if anything, to a buyer's agent? You'll notice there are 2 checkbox options. Either the seller does or does not agree to offer cooperative compensation. If they are agreeing at the time that you are listing their home to pay cooperative compensation to a buyer's agent, then there are two options here. And this is going to match what Form 220 looks like. Either the firm is going to be offering and paying the compensation, or the seller is going to be offering the compensation. As of the recording of this video at Choice Residential, you have either option available to you. The commission can be collected here and paid through the firm, or be paid directly from the seller to the buyer agent firm. I will tell you, now that the form has been updated to reflect the way that the real world works, we will likely move to an environment where we require that the seller just offer that compensation directly to the buyer agent. So if the seller is agreeing as part of the listing agreement and you listing their home up front to pay a set compensation amount, the recommendation is that you check this second box and the seller is offering that amount, whether it's a percentage or a flat fee. Another important piece here is that you are being authorized to offer that amount, but it is okay if the amount is different later. So if you ultimately decide on a different compensation later that the seller agrees to as part of an offer they receive, that's okay. This also does not mandate you to advertise this commission amount that's being offered, but that is something that you need to discuss with your sellers. Are you offering it upfront? Are we holding it back from the advertising? Of course, obviously it cannot go on the MLS, but it can be part of other advertising. So you need to decide that with the seller what your strategy is going to be. But this does say that the seller is agreeing to pay up to this amount. So you can see here in subparagraph I where we start to expand on all of that. Seller authorizes firm to offer cooperative compensation, that the firm may advertise and negotiate cooperative compensation on the seller's behalf. Any negotiated cooperative compensation must be paid by seller to firm at closing. Again, that's if you're selecting this first box, or if it's the second box, if seller offers cooperative compensation directly, seller authorizes firm to advertise the cooperative compensation. So you have permission to do that, but you need to discuss with your seller what the strategy is there. And then down here in subparagraph D, it's the total compensation. So the 3% that you put up here, let's say for example's sake, you put 3% down here, 3 plus 3 equals 6. And we know that the total compensation is 6%. Now, let me just go ahead and answer a question I know that I will get. What if you charge a transaction fee or a marketing fee or administration fee? Let's say that it's $450. Well, you may charge your percentage, in this example, 3%. So you're going to check this box and put in 3%. And then you will also check this box, other fees, specify name and amount, and you would type in marketing fee or whatever you call it, $450. So then when we add up the total, it's going to be 3% plus this 3% plus 450. So down here, you would say 6% plus $450. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And you don't have any other super complicated ways of identifying the compensation. And just to continue on through the form here, again, most of this is language that was existing before. It's just been consolidated in some ways. But I will touch on earnest money, which is that there is, and just reminding you, there is an option now for you to either decide to split the earnest money if the buyer defaults on the contract or not. So the previous version of the listing agreement stated that the the seller and firm would split any earnest money that was retained after a buyer defaulted on the contract. Although oftentimes agents and brokerages were not executing on that. So now there is just simply a way for you to say, if you don't intend to split the earnest money, you can check this box that says does not agree to equally split the earnest money. Before you default to checking that does not box, let me just say you have invested time, money, resources into getting the home under contract. It is not a stretch to think that you should be entitled to splitting the earnest money as compensation for the work that you've put in up to that point. As a firm, we will allow you to make that decision. We support either one of those equally. And then just a reminder, this was the same as with the previous version, but if the due diligence fee is going to be made out to someone other than the seller, you can identify that here. And so that could be maybe a parent or a child of the seller, or maybe it's a couple that is selling it and the due diligence fee can be made out to just one of them. This would be a good place to identify that, to make sure all parties are on the same page as to who the due diligence fee is being made out to. The next section that had significant change is the dual agency section. And this is again meant to consolidate and make it easier for agents and consumers to understand. I'm going to go through this in the way that you need to be filling it out at Choice Residential, because we do require that all clients, buyers, and sellers agree to designated dual agency. And anytime they are not going to agree to designated dual agency, you need to get permission from the broker in charge, that's me, before executing that listing or buyer agency agreement. And the reason is we need to make sure everyone understands the implications of not allowing us to behave as dual agents and designated dual agents. So again, to repeat, it is our policy, our requirement that all of our clients agree to designated dual agency. And if a client does not want to, we will approve that, but only after you've had a conversation with the broker in charge so that we can discuss all of the relevant implications of that. So the way that your clients are going to be filling this out 99.9% of the time is they will initial this blank right here. It's the second set of blanks, which says firm may act as dual agent in a transaction involving seller. 99.9% of the time, your sellers are initialing these blanks right here. Okay. Then, if firm may act as a dual agent, which they have just given us permission to because they initialed these blanks that I'm circling on the screen, then they will initial only one. Read that crystal clear. Initial only one line below. And what they're going to do here is authorize us to practice designated dual agency. So they will initial the bottom blank. Seller directs firm to practice designated dual agency. If seller directs firm to practice designated dual agency, then firm will practice designated dual agency, unless we're not allowed to. So they will initial the bottom of the top set of blanks and the bottom of the second set of blanks. Again, 99.9% of the time, your sellers will be initialing twice, right here and right here. It is critical that they do this correctly. We will kick the form back to you. We will chase you down to have it filled out correctly. And again, if for some reason, there are rare instances where it makes sense, but if for some reason your seller does not want to agree to designated dual agency, you need to discuss it with the broker in charge first so that we can discuss the implications. We are really cracking down on this, so please make sure you understand this part. And if you don't, reach out to Brian or Ashley immediately so that it doesn't become an issue the next time you take a listing. Next thing to be aware of, the effort was made to combine all of the disclosures and representations that sellers are making that used to be scattered throughout the listing agreement. They've now consolidated all of those. That being said, it's now a pretty long list. It's just one after the other. So it looks maybe to some people a little bit overwhelming because it's a lot of questions and checkboxes all being thrown together. Just make sure you have read through these. There's no new questions in here or new statements, new checkboxes. It's all the same stuff. It's just been consolidated so that all of those are together instead of scattered throughout the old 13-page document. All right. So I'm not going to go through those, just showing you what it looks like there. You can see it takes up about a page and a half. Then we get into seller's duties and the additional sections that were part of the original contract. Nothing to fill out here until we get to paragraph 19, where we have the additional terms. If there's something else that needs to be included here, then this would be the section to do that. And then that's it for the new Form 101 with the revision date of January 2025.